Great to be joined by the UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling, who, of course, has been doing all the rounds media-wise, and we've had a little bit of time to let this simmer. But first off, Aljo, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's, mentally I'm doing great. You know, I'm happy. I'm in a good place in my life, and I can't complain.
Awesome. Well, this interview is for MiddleEasy. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That's an easy way to support the channel here. Let's get into this, though. Let's start there first with your health. You mentioned it there, you know, mentally, but physically. How are you feeling right now? We're a couple weeks removed from the fight. How you doing?
I'm a little banged up, you know, lingering issues from like 10 years ago. It's just gotten progressively worse with every single fight camp. I'm at a point now where surgery is potentially on the table, just getting some muscle weakness in my arm. If I don't have some miracle release of my muscles where I can actually start to do push-ups and pull-ups again, I really don't know what else I'm going to be able to do other than the surgery. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's the only real thing that's kind of have me a little bit semi-down because I want to train. At least I know I can't do any sparring, but to at least be able to work out, that would be nice to do, but I can't right now. So I tried to roll yesterday. I had some success, but I was miserable after. My neck was on fire, and not being able to really push and extend with my left arm, it's a little disheartening. It's not, you know, it sucks. It sucks.
No, to put it lightly, I don't blame you. Obviously, you want to get back in there. Is this related to the knee from Yan, or is this something separate?
My neck was flared up before that, thanks to Gustavo Lopez jumping on my neck in a flow roll. And
damn it, Gustavo, why'd you have to do that? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you know, I broke his balls like almost every day I saw him at the PI. I was like, dude, I can't believe you put me in this type of pain before the fight. Like 4 weeks before the fight, like the guy jumped on my neck and just cranked without. You know, we were warming up. It was a flow roll. I thought the guy was a little bit, you know, more like on the easygoing side. Like, let's ease into this. I guess he's, I don't know, whatever. And went through the fight. And I don't think letting Petr Yan pick me up and slam me on my neck plus the knee, that combination of everything, I think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Between those three things, it was like the perfect storm. And now I'm in this position. I never had muscle weakness before. You know, I always push through the pain. I either get like a cortisone shot or I take like a week off, 4 days to a week off, and then I get better. Not 100%, but it at least gets me through the training camp. And yes, this has just been an ongoing thing, man. It's been like a routine every single fight camp. But this is like the worst it's ever been after a fight.
So take me through the timeline here. When are you going to see the doctor again? Like, I'm assuming you got to make that decision soon if you need surgery. And then from there, after you get the surgery, then you got to figure out when you'll actually be able to fight again. Like, it could be a bit, right, if you have to get the surgery.
Not exactly. The two procedures. There's one that's a fusion. That one is a little bit longer. That's about 9 months before you can start regular activity again in terms of like training at a high level. And then the other ones are artificial disc replacements, which a couple guys have gotten before. Chris Weidman being one of them. Alan Joban. I think there's another guy. I think Tristan Connolly actually got one too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he did get in touch with Weidman. And I only know that because Tristan lives like, 30 minutes away from where I live here in Vancouver. So I know him quite well.
Yeah. So that one is only 3 months. But before you can actually like schedule a fight, they would like to see you, at least what I was told from the doctor, like, let's wait till like 4.5 months before we start like really cranking out hardcore training. So it could be anywhere from 4.5 to 6 months, just depending on how well my body heals with the incision of the bone and the disc. I don't know the medical terms, but
no,
but
me
yes,
neither.
I go
Definitely not
back to
the medical
doctor. Yeah, I see the doctor on Monday.
Okay. So that's interesting. So we'll kind of get some more answers there. Not looking too, grim here, but, just you kind of mentioned it. If let's say worst case scenario, you are out for 9 months. Do you think the UFC would then do an interim title fight like without you to kind of keep the division moving? Is that something that worries you at all?
I don't know. It would be kind of silly. I would think. I mean, the facts are the facts. Like, I'm only in this position because of Yan.
Exactly. Yeah.
He pulled out of the first fight, which pushes back everything even further. Like, for this guy to be able to do that and for me to actually have a serious injury that I've been putting off for X amount of years to keep continuing to fight for the company, it would be kind of, I don't know, I want to say slap in the face, but it would be kind of like a little too much too soon kind of thing. And I think the right thing to do would be to wait. So devil's advocate, perfect world. I don't think it's going to be the 9 month. I really don't want to go the fusion route. I think that's more for like the NFL players and stuff like that. I think for us athletes, it's a little bit different. We need more mobility if we can get that.
Is Yan next? Is that like, I would assume everyone wants to see this, played out, the right way with, everything sort of coming to a conclusion here, right? It was Yan who did the knee. We're not disputing that, but it's obviously you want to see a resolution, because I know there was that photo with you and Cejudo and stuff. Like Yan is pretty much next. Is that what you're assuming?
That's what I was assuming, but after I came out and spoke about like how Nevada State Athletic Commission should have like suspended him, I was told that they were actually going to look into that and actually suspend him. And then I know Cejudo said that he was going to come back and he wanted to make a return. So I think that's probably the fight that they're going to make. And I know there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. No, this was an April Fool's joke.
Okay. So that is an April Fool's joke?
That one is an April Fool's joke. No, Petr Yan's the next guy.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Glad we clarified that. See, I gave you a rope. I gave you the out there, or I gave you the in, I should say, and you took advantage of it. So there you go. That's good. Let's talk about UFC 260. You trained at Extreme Couture. Francis Ngannou, what a win that was. Dominant performance over Stipe Miocic. What did you think of that win, and how long do you think it's going to be before someone beats that guy? Because he looked outstanding.
I thought it was super impressive, man. That guy is scary. The guy hits you, he connects, and it's literally lights out, man. That guy's a man-child. I don't know who in this division is going to be able to beat him. I mean, Derek Lewis is another guy who's just as big and just as powerful, hits just as hard. Arguably more athletic, I would say. And maybe I can't really say that. I don't know. I think Francis Ngannou has more like raw power. I think Derek Lewis kind of moves better. I don't know. I just feel like Derek Lewis he has these ways of moving and doing things when he's actually in shape, which is the very few times that he's actually been in shape. But I can't see anyone beating him anytime soon. I really can't. I just think Derek Lewis could be possibly the only guy. You would even say Volkov, but I mean, if Derek Lewis was able to get to him eventually, I think Francis Ngannou connects eventually, and that could be a short night for him as well. So it's a scary time, man. It's impressive that Stipe was even able to beat him the first time like that.
Yeah, no, very impressive win for Ngannou. Also on that card in your division, Sean O'Malley getting a finish over Thomas Almeida. What did you think of that performance? Because a lot of people are now talking about O'Malley being back and fighting all these contenders. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think he's ever left. I think people kind of wrote him off a little bit too soon. The Cheeto fight was a very flukish kind of scenario. Not saying it was a fluke kick because he threw the kick, but it was just one of those things like, what are the odds that actually happened to his foot? The fight was just getting going, and if his foot was okay and the fight was going from there when he was on the ground, I don't know. It makes it tough to take that away from Cheeto, but I don't think that type of fight ending could really put a damper on O'Malley's performance, what he was able to do the 1-2 minutes before that, if that makes sense. It was just such a short fight. You can't really put too much stock into that. So it's hard to really take away from what he's actually done before that and actually what he's done in this past performance with Thomas Almeida. I thought that was a really fun fight. Almeida gave him some pushback, not too much. I think he kind of just charges and loads up a little bit too much, which makes it easier to see. He's not giving any fakes where O'Malley's faking the whole time. He's showing the spinning back kick, and then he's coming back with a front kick or coming back with the cross. And he's just giving you different looks and a lot of different things to think about. Almeida when he kicked his leg versus Almeida when he kicked his leg. One is turning the guy all the way around. One is not really landing or does land but doesn't look like he's doing too much. I know Joe Rogan was trying to say like Almeida was picking up with how many leg kicks he was landing. Well, that was like the only thing he was able to land. So I think he's the real deal. We don't know how good he is off of his back yet, but in terms of the feet, his footwork, he's a tough out, I think, for a lot of people because he's long, he's rangy, and he knows how to move on the feet.
Do you think that was the best knockout in bantamweight history, like some people are saying?
Best knockout? I don't know, man. I mean, I would even argue maybe like TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt is up there. You have John Lineker versus Michael McDonald that's up there. You even have like the Marlon Moraes fight with myself. Like even that knockout was pretty ridiculous, And I mean, it was slick. He caught him coming in with the straight left, and then he fell down. He kind of did like a walk-off and then walked over and just kind of gave him a Dan Henderson H-bomb. But
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up there. It's up there.
You mentioned TJ Dillashaw. He's fighting Cory Sandhagen in a few weeks. Had your fight not ended with the DQ and you won the fight completely, without any controversy, do you think TJ would have got the next title shot, or do you think that regardless they would have booked him against Sandhagen?
I think regardless they were going to book him against Sandhagen. So I don't know I forget the date of that fight. I think it's in May.
Yeah, it's in May. Yeah, I think it's not May 15th. I'm trying to remember the exact date, but it's coming up here pretty soon. So.
They actually asked me to fight May 15th, like almost a week after the fight, after I just been
really okay. It's May 8th actually. May 8th is the fight. Yeah. Yeah,
when my head was not in this universe, but I had to decline that.
Okay, no, obviously, yeah. And like you said, you got to see the doctors this week or next week, right, to get everything sorted out. Do you think that you think TJ will look like his old self in the fight? Because there's that school of thought that he's been using before this Cejudo fight, and obviously he's had a layoff and he's had some surgeries. Like, how do you think TJ will look against Cory in that fight?
I think he's gonna look good from a technical standpoint because he's a very technical guy. The way he throws his combinations, he almost fights like it's a video game. Like he throws combinations like he's pressing buttons on a controller, like punch HX, triangle, square, that type of thing. And he looks good, but I just think with all the rumblings from the past and the press conference where Cody Garbrandt confirmed that he was trying to teach everyone at the gym how to do the steroids or the EPO, whichever one it was, it goes to show like how many years he's been cheating. So it's like, dude, I can't really put a real
can't give a good assessment, right? Because we don't know.
Yeah, on his skill set. Like, I don't really know how good he really is without that stuff. Like, yeah, he may be a technical guy, but in terms of his aggression and everything, that can all be coming from the stuff that he's injecting into his body. So it's really hard to put that assessment to really know exactly where he's at. And I think Cory Sandhagen is pretty damn good. So he's got the range, he's got the height. I think it's going to be a tough fight for him, and I'm interested to see how this one goes. But I don't, to say he looked like his old self, if he's cheating again, then I guess so. But I think you lose something when you're not on the sauce, So whether it's cardio, whether it's strength, he's not the biggest bantamweight. I mean, I'm walking around 65 already, So a week after the fight, this guy's walking around 150 pounds or whatever it is, something like that. So I'm like, the guy is not that big. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough out for him.
What do you think of TJ saying that he's preparing for a title shot against Petr Yan? Have you been seeing this?
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was relatively silly. I think if anyone goes back and that's not trying to hate on everything that happened after the fight as if I did something wrong, I think if they go back and look at the fight and look at the volume and the output, I was tired even going into the fight. So for me to even start like that, people are going to say it's an excuse. It's not an excuse. If you ask me what happened, I'm going to tell you what the fuck happened. I'm not making up shit. Like he was getting the better of me. I've said it. Like, it's not like I'm ashamed to say it like any other fight. Like, if the guy was beating me, the guy was beating me. I really don't care. But I don't think he's, on a skill set wise, I don't think he's a better fighter than me. I think if that was the best him, he hasn't said he was off or anything. So if that's the best Petr Yan, I like my chances in the rematch. That's all I can say. If I'm going to go into the fight depleted like that and still have that type of an output and that type of performance, I think he's in for a rude awakening, and I think TJ's in for a rude awakening as well. Because when I get in there with him, it's gonna be something serious. So that's if he even gets back. He's got to get past Cory Sandhagen first. I don't like to count my chickens before the eggs hatch. I'm just kind of riding this wave, and whatever happens, happens.
How do you think this Jon Jones situation is going to play out? I'm sure you've been, you're active on Twitter. You're seeing all the tweets and tweet and deletes, I should say, from Jones. He's asking for his release and he wants to get paid, a certain amount of dollars to fight Francis. Do you think it's going to work out, or do you think we could see Jon Jones leave, or them just, do the Lewis and Ngannou fight?
The UFC's in the business to make money. Obviously, as fighters and athletes with a short career window, we need to be in the business of making money for ourselves as well. I understand the UFC stance in terms of their business model. I understand Jon Jones' stance in terms of an athlete and a current fighter. It's I don't know what Jon Jones is asking for, so it's hard for me to be able to say I think he's being unreasonable. If he's asking for $5 million, is that a far-fetched thing? I don't think so. I think they both can generate that, no problem. Between the two of them, I think that's a huge fight. You got one guy who's been super dominant for years, probably the most title defenses in history, and taking on the guy who finally won the belt and beat someone who gave him his first loss. I think that, and who's people look at him as like an unstoppable human being, unstoppable machine. You know, if you're going to take that risk, you're going to go up to challenge these fights. There should be some type of reward. You shouldn't be really made out to look like you're afraid or scared. I think that was kind of wrong on Dana's part, but you know, Dana has his method to his madnesses as well. So he's the boss for a reason, but I hope the fight gets made. I'm going to pay to watch it.
Of course.
You know,
yeah.
so,
No, we all do. We all do. I just wonder if, you know, we've seen the UFC just move on and make fights like, you know, if it doesn't suit them, right? Like this happened with Covington and Woodley, if you remember, and they gave Woodley Usman instead, right? So you never know. We'll see how it unfolds.
My stance on that is, what's keeping them from making the fight? Is it how much he's asking for?
I think so, yeah.
No,
that's what it sounds like. Like Jon wants to get paid more for going up to heavyweight and taking this fight, I think, is part of it too, because it's such a dangerous fight, right? For him to move up a weight class, and you know, that's what I'm guessing, just from what I've seen.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you. You shouldn't get paid more just because you're going up to heavyweight. No one's forcing you to go up to heavyweight. But when you're arguably the GOAT, depending on all the other stuff, depending on, you know, all the other criteria that you look at in terms of inside and outside the octagon. When you're arguably the GOAT and you're deciding to go up, that's on you. But in terms of his name value, I think the UFC and Jon need to really look at the picture and see if he actually brings that value to that division in terms of interest. If the fans want to see it, make the fight, you know, figure out a way and meet a happy medium for both these guys. Like, how does Conor get paid what he gets paid? Like, I don't know what his actual dollars are in terms of his contract, because everyone's contract is different. People thought because I was fighting for the title, I made pay-per-view money and I was rich. I'm like, no, I actually have a contract. I don't get paid any type of pay-per-view dollars unless I become the champion. Now become the champion, my next fight, I actually get a share of the pay-per-view revenue. If the UFC makes my title fight with Yan on a pay-per-view card, they can screw me over and just say, you know what, you're fighting on this card, it's a fight night, and you ain't getting shit, that kind of thing. And I just get my flat pay, you know. So, I don't know. Everyone's contract is different. I don't think my pay scale is the same as Conor McGregor's. And I think that's what I'm concerned about for a situation like this with Jon Jones and what's his face, Ngannou. I don't know what they're both getting paid, you know. So maybe Jon Jones is asking for something unreasonable. I don't know. But who's to say what's unreasonable, you know, in terms of your health, you know? So I think they can make it work by just finding a happy medium and working it out that way.
Before we go, I got to know how you're doing, man, with all this backlash on social media. And also you have, you know, some people coming out and saying, you know, some notable people like Big John and some other people saying like, oh, you were acting or whatever. Like, how have you dealt with that? I know you're pretty active on social media. You're playing chess with people, which is awesome. But it's got to get to you a little bit, just having all the negative feedback from a lot of people who are just, you know, just being weird about the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I think when you see a guy like John McCarthy, who's supposed to be the standard of refereeing and officiating, and he's been around since the beginning of time of the sport, I think when you have him giving out these false narratives and painting a picture where it makes me look like I quit, or it makes me look like I took the easy road out or the coward's way out, kind of like this is Call of Duty or something. I think there's something to be said about that. I think his ego has gotten super inflated. When you're a guy who's doing stuff as a referee, #AskBJM, that says a whole lot about your persona and what you're in the sport for. So are you really looking out for the interests of the fighters, or are you just worried about how people perceive you, or if you think you made the right subjective call? Subjective, I do think as a ref, you do have to be subjective in there. Every scenario is going to be different, but I think there should be a black and white way of handling every single situation in terms of if there's 1 or 2 eye pokes, it should be automatically a point, not 3-4 warnings. It shouldn't be a low blow that there should be 3-4 warnings. If you hit a hard low blow, it should be a point right out of the gate. Control your weapons. Don't tell us the rules in the back. Then when we get out there in the fight, oh, you're giving us more warnings. You gave us the warnings in the back room. Accidents happen when guys are switching stances. You brush the cup. Okay, incidental. Okay, hard, you could give a hard warning. The next one, you take a point. But it's just one of those things where nothing's being enforced. And to hear people who I thought were intelligent saying certain things, it really, that's the one thing that bothers me, because it's like, man, I used to think you were smart. And if you think someone can actually fake that, please, please let me do it to you. And we'll see if that is still your stance on what happened. So that's the only thing. Other than that, like the other stuff with people I don't know, if you're, Josh Thompson, John McCarthy doing podcasts with each other, freaking jerking each other off. If you're one of those type of guys, it is what it is. I feel a little bit more disappointment in hearing that from those type of guys. I understand it from the fans because they don't know. But Josh Thompson, who's been kicked in the head, when he was kicked in the head with Yves Edwards, was he faking it then? He was standing. He was standing. He got kicked and he dropped. Was he faking that he got dropped? I was sitting down on a knee. I didn't see the shot. He was stuffing my head, and I was trying to get his hands off of my head so that I can get a clear way to get up to my feet. I get kneed in the head, and all of a sudden I'm faking, or I know the theatrics. It's actually laughable that someone of his stature can actually comfortably say something like that. It's just like, wow.
Well, there's two things I have issues with those comments or whatever, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But number one, it starts blurring the lines between, because there's fans out there who think that fights are fixed or whatever. When you start saying things like fighters are acting, you're kind of blending that all together. You know what I mean? And so it almost, like, whether he's, obviously he's entitled to his opinion, but the problem is now you have fans, like you said, who are uneducated, now going to fuel that even more, saying, oh, these guys are faking. There's people who are taking a dive. Like, we see, how many times on social media do you see, oh, someone got knocked out, they took a dive, right? Like, it's fueling into that, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. And I guess that was another angle I never even thought about, because I would never, ever put myself in that situation to take a dive in a fight. Or, that's never even crossed my mind. I've never once in a fight have I ever thought, I'm in a tough position. I can quit and make it look like I tried and save face and then just be like, oh, he got the better of me. I've never once done that, even when the tough got going. Even when I fought and I was exhausted against Caraway, there's never one time been a moment where I just been like, I'm going to quit. I don't have that in me. So it's like, for people to actually try to slander my character and say like that's the type of individual I am, it's really a slap in the face. And it just lets me know like these people's opinions don't matter and they're not as smart and as educated as I once thought. And it is what it is. I mean, they could be butthurt about it if they want. I'm not losing any more sleep over it. The fans, I'm not even dealing with that anymore. I'm just gonna say what I say.
Play chess. You got the right method going on. And then just the last thing on it that kind of bothers me as well is that like people comparing your situation to Anthony Smith's, I think is wrong as well, because what happened to Anthony. Yes, he continued, but it's not even close to what you can see you getting hit in that fight with the knee, right? Like it's pretty obvious. And you just even your reaction after the fact and you see how emotional you are. It's a lot different than the Smith situation. Yes, Smith continued, but I hate that too, because it's like people are comparing the two. They're not even close in terms of what happened in the fight. So didn't that bother you as well?
Oh, 100%. It's not even the same type of impact and where the knee landed in my head. And it was a flush knee. It wasn't even brushed. It didn't hit an arm. It didn't get stuffed. It didn't get hit the fist and then go through and then hit the head. I got strictly kneed right to the head as if this was target practice by a guy who lands knees and kicks to people's heads and knocks them out. And I'm told that I should have continued after that. I didn't even know where the hell I was. So I don't know. If I asked for more time, I was going to try to fight through because I really didn't think I was going to get another title shot because I just felt Dana wasn't going to grant it to me. But I am appreciative of the ref making the right call. It should have been a no contest or a DQ. I mean, when else are you supposed to DQ a fighter? We could just continuously do these things that are illegal and never have any type of repercussions because we just don't want to DQ people because we don't want to piss the fans off. Is that what it is? I really don't even understand it anymore. It's like, where do we draw the lines where we can make this black and white and stop leaving so much gray area for people to just kind of make up their own rules on the fly? It reminds me of like when Marab got choked out
by Ricky Simon.
He wasn't unconscious. And the ref said, no, he was out. He was unconscious. You do that when you're unconscious. I'm like, you don't bicycle kick your feet in a manner to show that you're awake like that. You spaz up. You don't do it in a rhythm to show. He got a stinger in his neck. He couldn't move because I felt that. I know what that feels like. When you're in a fight and you're in a tough position, you got to show that you're still there. And Marab did everything he could possibly to show that he was still in the fight, wasn't choked out. And then the ref took away the fight from him after the bell, where people have been saved by the bell, but they took away so it's like things change pending from fight to fight all the time, and we never get clarity, and that's where it gets very, very frustrating. And even the fight with Darren Smith and Eric Anders, knees him in the head twice illegally. The first one doesn't connect, I don't think, but he aimed for the head, but I think he blocked it. But it should have still had a warning. Like, hey, man, he's a down opponent. You threw an illegal knee. Like, even though it hit the arm, if I'm throwing at the head, like, the ref should say something. Then he hits him in the head the second time, but it, like, blocks off the arm and then hits him in the head. The ref rules it a DQ. I mean, that was obviously for more exhaustion. Like, if I got a partially blocked knee and I was more exhausted, I would have – more than likely I'm getting up and I'm fighting. That's just how I am. You know, like I said, I'm not coming here for participation points. I'm coming here to win. You know, so in a situation like that, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten any heat. Like, at least I haven't seen it. He hasn't gotten everything thrown at him saying he's acting, he's faking. I'm like, he partially blocked the knee. It did hit him, but he partially blocked it. I got decimated and I'm being crucified. So, you know, I'm just going to laugh to the bank and I'm going to troll these guys. You know, if they want to come for me like this, I'm going to come for them like that.
Aljo, thanks so much for the time, man. This was awesome. Hopefully all goes well with the doctors when you see them here soon, and we'll see you back in the cage before we know it. Again, everyone hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Anyone you want to thank, Aljo? Any sponsors, any social media you want to plug? I'll give you the last word.
I just want to thank the Dice team overseas, and I want to thank Sleepy Bear Gummies, Everlast, and do I have anybody else? I don't think so. My team, obviously, my fiance and my team, and everyone for sticking by me, obviously my management groups as well. So thank you guys, and I appreciate it. And we will be back, man. And the true people who actually follow and support, and they do know what I bring to the table. I haven't lost a round since the Marlon Moraes fight. So to think that performance was really what I could bring to the table, I think people know, like, I can do much better than that. So I'm looking forward to the next one, because I do think the next one will be the best one.